Meghan Markle is the woman who has turned victimhood into a business model.
The desperation at the moment of Meghan, it's like completely exhausting.
Watch closely, because there's something almost painful about this moment, the kind of desperation you can sense before you even see it. Meghan Markle thought she was crafting her grand comeback, but what she didn't realize was that it would become one of her most humbling lessons. Inside her elegant Montecito office, Meghan wasn't just scrolling through inspiration boards or flipping through magazines. She was sketching a vision she believed would redefine her image. A handbag unlike any other, white ethical leather, gold hardware, and engraved with one of her own empowerment quotes. In her mind, it wasn't just a fashion accessory. It was a statement of power, a symbol that said, "I still belong." Her team poured themselves into it, sending design notes, color samples, even timing the potential release around a high-profile charity gala. Everything was calculated, polished, meant to shine. But what she saw as creativity, Hermes saw as overreach. To them, it wasn't collaboration. It was a celebrity trying to teach a centuries-old house of quiet elegance how to make its own masterpiece. So they refused. Not rudely, but firmly. And that no spoke volumes. It echoed through Paris, whispered between ateliers and luxury circles, a reminder that true sophistication doesn't chase attention, it commands it silently. And just like that, Meghan's power play became something else entirely. A lesson in grace, restraint, and how even the most glamorous plans can crumble when the world decides to look the other way.
Meghan was about to do something that to just crush all headlines, and well, she did it. I'm not gonna lie, she did it.
Now, if you think Hermes simply declined Meghan's request and everyone quietly moved on, think again. What happened next became the talk of Paris. The fashion world doesn't forget, and it certainly doesn't forgive a misstep that bold. So when Meghan appeared at the Balenciaga show during Paris Fashion Week, all eyes were on her. The cameras caught it, that subtle discomfort in her expression, the unease behind her practiced smile. It wasn't just another celebrity moment. It was the quiet aftermath of a rejection still echoing through the front rows of Paris's most exclusive runways.
I think that was shown the most during her Paris Fashion Week appearance, which was another desperate and craven attempt to grab the limelight.
But here's what no one tells you. Before Meghan even stepped into that room, the damage was already done. Her message had crossed oceans and shattered her standing in the world of high fashion with just one sentence, one leak, and one rejection so sharp it echoed across Europe. Within 48 hours, every major fashion house knew. The whispers moved faster than the headlines. What happened next wasn't just a scandal. It was a reminder of how quickly admiration can turn to silence in a world built on elegance and exclusivity. Meghan's attempt to reinvent the beerkin wasn't seen as innovation. It was seen as audacity. And Paris, a city that worships tradition and quiet power, turned its back. What exactly was said that sealed her fate? That's where the story takes its darkest turn. Because in the end, it wasn't just a bag she lost, it was the one thing she could never buy back: respect.
Now let's have a look at Meghan Markle being weird and inauthentic.
If we have learned something about her, she really doesn't like that much, bad coverage. When something backfires, we know that she doesn't like it. She's about to do something completely outrageous, maybe in the next 48 hours.
Let's break it down. Because what Meghan wanted wasn't just a beerkin, it was something far more symbolic. Anyone with money and patience can eventually buy a beerkin. But Meghan? She wanted a piece no one else in the world could own. A creation that said, "I still have influence. I still belong." According to sources close to her team, this wasn't about luxury, it was about legacy. She requested white, ethical leather to reflect her sustainability image and gold hardware to mirror her jewelry aesthetic. But the real surprise was her final touch. She wanted one of her own quotes about female empowerment engraved into the hardware itself. Just imagine that, her own words etched onto the most iconic handbag in the world. Her team reportedly pitched it as a collaboration, Hermes meets modern feminism. They even suggested it could mark the beginning of an ethical luxury line for the brand. But here's the thing, Hermes doesn't do collaborations. A beerkin isn't a trend piece. It's a tradition. Each one is handmade by a single artisan, a process that takes nearly 100 hours of meticulous craftsmanship. Even royalty has been turned away for less. There's a story of a Middle Eastern princess once denied a simple color change, because at Hermes, you don't purchase prestige, you earn the privilege of access. And Meghan, intentionally or not, had tried to give the masters of quiet luxury an assignment. What happened next? That's where the story takes its sharpest turn, and it only gets worse from here.
This woman is really not oppressed. She's opportunistic.
The lengths that Meghan Markle can, go to only for a bit of attention. That is truly a miserable life. This woman is really malevolent.
So, here's what really happened when Hermes received Meghan's request. There was no long explanation. No polite meeting. No gentle decline. They responded with a single sentence, one so precise that, according to insiders, it left Meghan's entire team in stunned silence. Madam, Hermes does not accept external creative direction on heritage pieces. Let that sink in. Not we'll consider it. Not perhaps in the future. Not even a softened unfortunately, this isn't possible. Just an unshakable statement of tradition and authority. In other words, we don't take design suggestions, not from you, not from anyone. It was a masterclass in diplomatic rejection. Because beneath the elegance of that phrasing lay a quiet but unmistakable message, Meghan wasn't a collaborator. She was an outsider. Hermes has its artisans, its clients, and its legacy, and Meghan had just been placed firmly outside that circle. But instead of accepting the no with grace, her team made the one mistake you never make in Paris. They pushed back. Emails began to circulate, not one, but several. Stylists reaching out to contacts, publicists proposing meetings, assistants trying to reframe the rejection as a missed opportunity for modern luxury. One message reportedly even suggested that Hermes was failing to reach younger audiences by refusing Meghan's vision. Think about that. The House of Hermes, the brand with century-long prestige, waitlists that stretch for years, and clients who plead to be accepted, was being told it was missing an opportunity. It was more than bold. It was a breach of etiquette in a world where subtlety is sacred. And that's when Hermes decided it was time to make a point. A quiet but unforgettable lesson, not just for Meghan, but for everyone watching, about hierarchy, humility, and how Paris protects its throne. There's something chilling about what happened next, the way the fashion world can turn on you without ever raising its voice. Luxury houses thrive on honor, on unspoken rules of discretion. What happens behind those closed doors stays there, unless, of course, you cross a line. And once that line is crossed, the consequences unfold quietly, but mercilessly. Within days of Meghan's team's persistent follow-ups, the whispers began. Not in tabloids or on social media, but in Paris itself. Inside ateliers, showrooms, and editorial offices, the story spread like perfume through a ballroom. And one detail was repeated over and over, the engraved empowerment quote. That single idea, her words on a birkin, became a symbol of everything Paris found naive, even absurd, about the request. One French editor was overheard saying she wanted to put her own words on a birkin, as if the bag needed her to mean something. It was brutal, but that's Paris, elegance laced with cruelty. By the end of the week, Meghan's rejected design wasn't a secret anymore. It had become a private joke. Fashion students whispered about it. Interns at Vogue Paris traded memes that never left their group chats. The question repeated again and again, did you hear what she asked Hermes to do? She wanted to redesign a birkin, and then argued when they refused. In a city built on quiet prestige, Meghan had become what no one wants to be in fashion, a cautionary tale. But she wasn't ready to disappear. Determined to prove Paris wrong, she arrived at Fashion Week, stepping into the Balenciaga show like a woman on a mission. This was supposed to be her I don't need Hermes moment. But those in the room felt it immediately, the shift in the air. The smiles didn't reach the eyes. The air kisses stopped just short of contact. One guest later described it perfectly. It felt like watching someone walk into a party where everyone already knew something she didn't. And what they knew was the Hermes story. Because in Paris, nothing stays secret for long. By the time Meghan took her seat, every person who mattered already knew about the custom birkin rejection. Then came the whispers, rumors, reports, and speculation that her team faced backstage concerns during preparations. Whether true or not, it didn't matter. The narrative had already been written, and Paris loves a story. And for Meghan, this was the one that sealed her fate, the tale of how she tried to outshine a legacy and ended up standing in its shadow.
No, Meghan rushes off to Paris to go and steal that. You could see her trying to get any photo she could with any paparazzi that was there. You could see her walking openly in crowds, which is just hilarious.
5. After everything, the rejection, the whispers, the uncomfortable appearance at the show, more details began to surface about Meghan's Paris Fashion Week moment. The dress she wore? Borrowed. Not gifted. Not part of a paid partnership. Just borrowed, with the tags allegedly still attached, according to those close to her styling team. In fashion, hierarchy matters. At the top, you buy the pieces yourself. Then come the gifted looks, when brands want you to wear their creations. Below that are paid partnerships. And at the very bottom lies the practice of borrowing, returning garments once the cameras stop flashing. That's what young models and newcomers do as they build a name. It's not what's expected of a Duchess with global fame and Netflix money, trying to reclaim her status in Paris. Even the shoes, insiders said, were borrowed. And in that world, everyone knows who's buying and who's begging for samples. One stylist was blunt, When you see someone borrowing head-to-toe for Paris Fashion Week, you're not seeing power, you're seeing desperation. The message was clear. Meghan hadn't just lost the collaboration, she'd lost the perception of influence. She couldn't command respect, custom pieces, or even complimentary couture. To the Paris elite, that silence spoke louder than any rejection letter. But then came the moment that changed everything, the gesture that Paris considered unforgivable. After Fashion Week, Meghan reportedly arranged to drive through the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the very place where Princess Diana lost her life. Sources suggest cameras were present, capturing every moment. To Meghan's team, it was meant as a tribute, a quiet homage to Diana's memory. But in Paris, that act carried a different meaning. A French journalist put it simply, "In Paris, we don't film in cemeteries. We don't create content at tragedy sites." To them, it felt less like remembrance and more like performance, as though grief had been rehearsed for the lens. Fashion insiders whispered that it wasn't just tone deaf, it was sacrilege. Paris saw it as Meghan's final misstep, not just trying to reclaim her place in high society, but trying once again to borrow Diana's story. And in that moment, the city that once might have embraced her closed its doors for good. And in a city that mourned Diana, that lived through that tragedy, filming in that tunnel crossed a line no publicist could ever repair. The whispers grew darker. People began to connect the dots. First, she tried to redesign a Birkin. Then, she filmed at the site of Diana's death. Fair or not, Paris turned those moments into a single, haunting narrative. A woman who didn't understand where boundaries end and reverence begins. And that's when something remarkable and cruel began to happen. Meghan Markle became a verb. Don't pull a Meghan. The phrase quietly spread through fashion PR circles. It meant, don't overstep with legacy brands. Don't challenge rejections. Don't try to rewrite tradition. In boardrooms and ateliers, her name became shorthand for a mistake that should never be repeated. Junior publicists were warned, handle this carefully, or you'll pull a Meghan. Stylists told their rising clients, trust the brand's vision, don't pull a Meghan. Fashion students were reportedly studying her Paris appearance as a case study, how to lose credibility in 72 hours. And one fashion executive summed it up simply, there are clients you fight for, and there are clients who become examples. Meghan became the example. In an industry built on reputation, that label is permanent. So when you connect it all, the pattern becomes painfully clear. Meghan wanted to modernize tradition, but in doing so, she disrespected the very heritage she admired. She wanted collaboration, but demanded control. She wanted to honor Diana, but Paris saw only performance. And that's how Meghan Markle became fashion's quietest warning, a name whispered behind the walls of couture houses, a reminder that elegance is not about commanding power, but about understanding it. In the end, Hermes didn't just reject a custom handbag. They rejected an approach, one that tried to shape legacy rather than earn it. And in a world where reputation is everything, that kind of rejection lasts forever.